Brad Nigh, we are live.
Oh no.
It's good to see your face.
It's dangerous.
I was hoping that like with age you'd get prettier, but I don't think it happened.
No, my beard got shorter.
Yeah, why?
So in April we were celebrating spring break, and I was like, oh, I can't believe it's been 6 years that I've had this beard because the Caps won the playoffs. And my wife goes, yeah, it's about 5.5 years too long. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't like you with a beard. I like seeing your face. I'm like, really? Why? Okay. So this is the happy compromises. I don't have to shave every day. And
yeah, I had my beard. My beard grew for a long time. And then like a year and a half ago, April of last year, I shaved it. I was like, I wonder what my face looks like. You know, I haven't seen it in so long. So I shaved it. And I'm like, oh my God, there's 3 chins here. I look like shit. So I was at instant regret. I was trying to think of some way maybe to glue my hair and put it back on, but this isn't bad. This is only a year and a half.
That's not bad.
No. All right. Enough of that. So here we are. This is episode 13 of the InfoSec to Insanity podcast. And joining me is Mr. Brad Nigh, good friend, coworker. How long have you worked with me at FR Secure?
I started in July of 16, so 8.5 years.
8.5 years. So 8.5 years we've worked together. We've done a lot of cool things together, done some projects together. We started the Unsecurity podcast. How many episodes is that now?
Almost 240, I think.
Holy shit. 240 episodes.
I'm pretty sure.
So we started that podcast because I wanted to talk with you. I wanted just a dedicated hour a week with you. We were so busy. We never got to talk. I was like, let's just jump on Zoom and then
man,
yeah,
some
now
of those,
it's a thing.
Some of those initial, we're at 2:30. I had to look it up. We recorded, but yeah, some of those initial ones compared to, you know, with lessons learned over the time. But yeah, those first ones were pretty tough.
Yeah. No, yeah, dude, they were terrible quality. But I don't know. I think this thing is probably terrible quality too, because the point isn't for me or you to be famous. It's not, you know, how many followers can we get? Can we go viral? It's none of that. For me, this one is it's about mental health. It's about once a week, I sit down with somebody and I just talk about something.
Yeah.
You know, some days, you know, I don't know if you ever feel this way, but some days I feel like maybe I'm crazy because you see people doing stuff and you're like, why the hell would you do that? You know, it goes against everything that I've said or everything that I've taught. Right. And so then after a while, you're like, man, am I the only guy that thinks this way? So do you ever feel that?
Yeah, there are some times when you're just like, yeah, I think so.
It helps
I agree
me
with that. I was trying to think if there's a better way to say it, but you pretty much nailed it.
No, yeah. Well, so this podcast, so the reason why we're here is, you know, we've been talking, we've been friends for a while. We've had, you know, really intimate, you know, conversations, you know, because beyond being coworkers, you know, work is one thing, but you being healthy, me being healthy, us investing in each other as people, that's got to come before work. I mean, what good are you to anybody if you're not healthy, man?
Right. Yeah. I you know, had conversations with people and their employers, and you're just like, the way that some people treat others is just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's sad, you know, but I think that's what sets us apart. I mean, I think that's one of the things that makes FR Secure special is we actually do give a shit about each other. We love each other, and we're willing to take the time to invest in each other, you know, ask how, you know, you're doing, which led to a conversation. And I remember it like it was yesterday. There's certain conversations I have with certain people that just stick out in my brain. And when you took me aside at Hacks and Hops this last summer, and we sat together, just me and you, way off on the side somewhere, and you told me, hey man, and the reason why you told me is because I've been, I think, pretty open about my sobriety over the years.
Very much
and,
so.
And you talked to me, and I was like a father moment, man. I mean, I'm not your dad, but I felt I was so proud of you because I was like, you know, coming to that realization that you need some help, that alcohol, you know, maybe not the thing for you.
Yep.
That was a huge moment. And then we kept talking and everything. And you check in with me, I think semi-regularly. You tell me, hey man, it's been 90 days. I'm like, hell yeah, brother. And then I was like, why don't we get on a podcast and just talk about this? Because somebody, there's going to be somebody that listens to this podcast who's going to be helped by this.
I mean, that's why I'm doing it. Like you said in LinkedIn, there's such a stigma around it, and
fucking stigmas, man.
Somebody has to, at some point, somebody's got to do something to break the stigma, or at least stand up to it, right? And if we can help someone, you and I've been pretty open about mental health on security and speaking engagements and things like that. And so it's like, you know what? And it's funny, the timing it's kind of funny because about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before you had said something about getting on the podcast, I had said, that I could go on and use some of the public exposure to talk about this and say, hey, and work on, helping others and giving back to the, to the community, as it were.
Yeah. I just see in the chat, Matt Goodacre's here. Gives you 90 days. Hell yeah. Keep it up. And I know Matt too, and Matt's been sober for a while. So congratulations to Matt. Congratulations to a lot of these people, because we don't talk about this stuff. The stigma is bullshit. And I think stigmas kill people.
Mm-hmm. Well,
because you think, well, nobody else will understand, I'm ashamed of this. Like I can't share it with anybody because they're going to think I'm, worse. If anything, the fact that you confront yourself like that you face the mirror, makes you more of a man than if you kept running from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I guess it'll help. I'll give a little bit of background for me. Just
absolutely.
It is a very new thing for me.
You say new or nude?
New.
That's a bummer. I was hoping you said nude. Okay, go ahead.
No, it's like 0 out right now. There's no way there's that happening, right?
You need to come hang out with me, Matt. We can make this part of your treatment.
There we go. But so I have a little bit of a different background and story than others, but I didn't really ever have a drinking problem. I didn't drink till I was 21. Mm-hmm. Never had issues with it in the past. Where it became a problem is after COVID and the isolation, and that really hit me hard. And so
COVID fucked up a lot of people, man.
4.5 years there. It's been, an issue. And then, I think I talked about it. It was April of 22. I found out about my dad, and that he had died, 2 months prior, and it was sick for a while, and nobody reached out to any of the kids. And that kind of just broke me. There was a bunch of other stuff, and, not making excuses. I just couldn't deal with it. It was just too much. And so it about that time is when I really started drinking a bit heavier. But, I justified it, right? Anybody who's gone through this knows that, I rationalized it. I was only drinking from like between 7:30 and 9:30, and I wasn't hungover in the morning, and I wasn't drinking and driving, and I had, all the things that you do to not admit that this is a problem. Mm-hmm. And so, again, anybody that has gone through it will probably nod in agreement, but you kind of get an ultimatum from the spouse of like, I can't live with you if you're going to be drunk and you're drinking. I'm like, oh. And so, that
shakes things up.
Right. Yeah. It gets your attention when somebody says that. And so, I did try on my own for about 6 months, and definitely reduced the amount and the frequency of the drinking, but kept falling back. So I'd go a month, oh, see, I don't have a problem. And then what do? You go right back to what you were doing. And I would go 2 months. Oh, see, I don't have a problem. And so finally, kind of realized over Labor Day weekend, I couldn't do it myself.
That was this Labor Day weekend, 2024.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So just some stuff happened, and I was like, holy this is not who I want to be. I've tried this. I can't do it. So I actually I'm currently doing, but I went to Hazelden, Betty Ford, and did their intensive outpatient program. And that's 4 nights a week for 3 hours a night,
It's a
which
commitment,
is
man.
fucking exhausting.
Yeah.
So I just moved down to 2 nights a week last week, and so that'll go on for a while. But you know, it, anybody that my big thing was everybody talks about AA, and when you see that, and there's a lot of religion and God and the higher power, and that doesn't resonate to me. I'm not I'm not a very religious person. I just isn't just not me. So that really was a barrier for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went and I was like, I can't. I need to do something. This is clear. It's not working.
Right.
And I realized it's not like preachy or religious or anything like that. It's it's the community. It's that feeling of you're not the only one. You're not isolated. Just the sheer number of I was showing you, like, this is my stack of papers with notes from the intensive portion. Like, the amount of tools that you get and can learn and that we don't have is incredible.
Right.
I think the thing that I struggled with is I didn't have the long history. You hear the stories of people going like 90 days. This is the longest I've been sober, for 90 days in like decades.
Yeah.
And at first, I'll be honest, I was like, well, yeah, I don't have, like, I don't get it. Like, how am I the same? And then what you realize is we're all there for the same reason. Face some consequence, right? It became a problem.
Yeah.
And and listening to the people, it's like, yeah, you can totally, like, you can relate to them. There's just things that you hear and you're like, oh, okay. And I've built friendships in the last couple of months that are incredible, like better friendships than I've had with people that I've known for years and years or decades. Like, you just build, and it's a place free of judgment, and there's a way to learn, and there's other recovery methods out there. Like, I'm not following 12 steps. I'm using smart recovery, which is like science based, but it's very similar. But it just resonates with me. It's more like cognitive behavioral therapy type of stuff. And so there's a ton of tools out there that you don't know. There's it's disease of shame and guilt and isolation, and it just spirals on itself.
Yeah. If anybody had one takeaway from this podcast or anything, around mental health or addiction, it's the stigma is bullshit. The stigma is bullshit. Whatever you're thinking, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
That if you think that somebody's not going to care, or somebody, that you're weak, the weak people are the ones who don't get better. The weak people are the ones that just continue the cycle of destruction. The strong people are the ones who seek help. It's not easy to be vulnerable.
No.
I quit drinking. So it was August 4th, 2001. And it's a long story, man. I mean, I drank all the fucking time. Not all the time. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. Still am today. Right. So there's such a thing as an addicted personality. And so every time I drank, it was all in. My wife, who is my wife today, was with me during those final years. And, they were like the death throes of my, practicing disease. And I would spend $700 a night at the bar. I would drink a bar completely out of tequila and then have to go to another bar. I mean, it was so out of hand. I've been to jail 10 times, 4 DWIs, caused a lot of havoc, a lot of assaults, just guys, probably at bars. Usually it was around a pool game. Somebody was upset that I was taking their money or something, but it was just complete fucking chaos. And every time something bad happened, this is what the addict does. The addict never takes responsibility.
Nope.
The addict always has an excuse. And so I always had an excuse. Oh, the circumstances were wrong. The police were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, it was always some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally changed, when I finally decided that I needed to get sober, was when I ran out of excuses. I had nobody else to blame.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, that was truly a rock bottom. I was in jail again. I was wanted in 3 counties. One county for this current DWI, another county because I destroyed their park with my Jeep that I was driving, and the other county for probation violation. So, I mean, it was a complete shit show, and there was no reason for it. And my father always, I was raised right. My dad taught me right from wrong. I grew up in a military household. My mom, 6 years in the Marines, my dad, 20 years. And my dad always taught me that poor choices have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And I was suffering a lot of consequences, as were anybody and everybody around me.
Yeah.
So that was my rock bottom. When I ran out of excuses, I was in a holding cell with probably 8 other guys, and I'm laying on the floor bawling my eyes out because I finally fucking realized that I was the problem. That it wasn't anybody else. It wasn't the cops. It wasn't my ex. It wasn't my friends. It was me. I was the damn problem. And I think that's so important, not just with sobriety, not just with being an addict, but with everything. Own your shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, for me, the thing that really resonates the most is they play a speech. It's anybody who's been there knows I think it's like Tiger Tom or something, but he relates that to alcohol or addiction to a tiger. But it's the thing that it is you have an abnormal reaction to alcohol. So for me, I would get hangovers, which if you're drinking, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Right? Well, so what? But the downside is you don't have guardrails that most people would have. Of you wake up with a hangover and go, oh shit, that was a really bad idea.
Yeah.
So you don't have that in place. And so, that's what made me go, oh, okay. I understand this now. It's not it's an abnormal reaction, or, however you want to put it. That's,
and I've learned
it's home.
So in your 90 days, you must have learned, you showed a big stack of papers there. You must have learned a hell of a lot.
Oh, so much. Last night we actually went through defense mechanisms, which is exactly what you were just talking about. The blaming, the denial, the projection, the rationalization, right? All the different things. And at the end of the day, what is it? It's dishonesty within oneself is what that is. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
And I've learned just, oh my gosh, I can't even, it's just so much.
Right. Well, and one of the things as you continue down your path of sobriety is you'll start to attract similar people. Because since I got sober, and I relapsed twice, there's another story there, right? When you relapse, it's not game over. Yeah. Winners, pick themselves up, figure out what you missed, what did I learn, and it really kind of the last one, I was like, what the fuck did I do? What the hell, but an addict would have just not even done that, right? An addict would have looked for excuses and whatever. Right. So the fact that you start thinking like that, I think that's a real healthy way. And then I kind of came to the conclusion that for me, the triggers, if I'm alone, I'm bored and I have time on my hands,
Yeah.
something's going down.
Yeah.
So I just look for opportunities where if I'm alone, just keep myself busy. I can't be alone, bored, and time on my hands because I'm going to get in trouble.
I get
You
that.
got your dog there.
I know.
Your dog's addicted to you.
Oh my God. They like knew I was on or something, and now they want to go out. But yeah, I think the big thing for me is the sober date, the day sober, all that. Yeah, I mean that's important, but it's not. It doesn't really drive me. Like I've done that. I've gone for years without drinking. It's never been a problem. Like I could say that's so, but it became a problem. And now what works for me, and everybody's gonna be different. There are absolutely people that is their motivation and that's what keeps them going. But the thing that keeps me going is focusing on today, right? I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to drink today. Like just because otherwise this is a common theme is I can never drink again. That's a big thing to try and chew. You can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? This is what I can control. I'm not going to do it today.
Yeah. And one of the things that doesn't work for me, because I was talking to my wife a few weeks ago and she was, I was telling her, I think about this episode or something. And I was, and she said, yeah, if you drink again, you're out of the house. And I looked at her and I go, that's not a motivator for me.
Yeah.
If anything, that's an anti-motivator. Like I almost want to push you to see if that's actually what you're going to do. That's never been the thing that motivated me.
No.
Was that somebody threatened me or somebody's like, I'm going to take this away from you if you drink again. It's like, let's see. So what motivated me was, I think I realized that I wasn't, fulfilling like a purpose in my life. There was it was just chaos all the time. And I hate chaos. Addicts say that and nobody loves fucking drama more than an addict.
Right.
And they say, no, I don't. I hate drama. Well, then stop causing so much fucking drama. Because one of the things I've, over the years, when people hear that you've been sober, is you start making friends like that. So I have a lot of addict friends. I have some of my best friends are addicts. And the cool thing is like an addict knows the game that addicts play.
Right.
So when they try to play a game on me, it's like, fuck you, man. That ain't working.
No. Well, and like you said, they get it too. Right. So, it's not like they're, like if you might tell somebody who's not like, let's just say, a parent or something, or a sibling, and they're going to like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of drinking. Oh, are you okay? Do I need to come over? And it blows up. If I reach out to you, go, hey, I need to talk because I'm struggling. You're going to go, okay, hey, what's up?
Right.
And it's a very different reaction. Well,
it's crazy too, because now, you deal with like people that will call you that have a child that's struggling. I get calls like that sometimes. Like, what should I do? Like I had one friend of mine, he's a CISO for a, respectable company, and his son got his first criminal charge. It's theft by swindle, I think he got. And, he wants to do everything he can to protect his son, keep him out of jail and everything like that. And he's like, what should I do? And I said, let him go to jail.
Yeah.
Let him suffer the consequences. You don't realize how much, people, and don't blame other people, but how you enable people like me, people like you. And it's not your fault that you do that, I think. But the more, even if you don't have an alcohol problem, you don't have a drug problem, you don't have an addiction problem, it doesn't mean you shouldn't learn about it, because chances are pretty good that somebody in your family, in your friend circle, somebody does have one.
Yeah.
And the more you know about it, the more you can help not be the enabler. Again, being an enabler, it's not your damn fault. It's the addict's fault. I always want to be clear on that, because, my mom, totally enabler, I can manipulate anybody to be my enabler.
Yeah.
I'm a really good fucking addict.
Right.
I can always find a justification. Like, you shouldn't have given me money. Well, I need money. It's always some crazy shit. But I never went to AA. I never, and I remember when I was in, because I did go to a treatment program. It wasn't as intense as yours. It was a program called Safe Streets in Minnesota. And I said, I'm not, I don't want to go to AA. And the guy said, there's no way in hell you're going to stay sober. I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean? He's like, you can't stay sober without AA. I'm like, the hell I can't. And I can. AA is just a tool. I mean, you have to figure out what tools work for you, what support system works for you.
Well, I think you just nailed it. It's the support system, right? That's why, AA is so powerful. It's the largest sober support in the world.
But there comes a time when that support becomes a crutch. I've seen it happen with a lot of people where the life skills you need to cope with alcoholism doesn't come from an external source. It comes from you. And you have to have the support. But there are times, I know some friends who, they will, if they miss an AA meeting or if AA wasn't there, they'd be back at it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because it's become such a crutch for them.
It's another tool in the toolbox, right? Like, that's how I look at it is that, having that place that you can get the thought out of your head, right? If it swirls and sits there, that's when you get into trouble. And if you, just getting it out and verbalizing it, it can be, that's a tool in the toolbox, but it can't be the only one.
No. So what was do you remember the turning point? Like when the light bulb was switched on for you, like, I'm going to take this serious and I'm going to go get help. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah. I reread some of the stuff I texted and was like, holy, it wasn't aimed at the person, but it was not who I want to be. And I was embarrassed and it was a shame. I was like, holy fuck. Okay. I can't keep doing this. I need to stop. I need to do, and it's funny. I was actually talking to my sister this weekend, and I think one thing that I was thinking about and kind of just hit home was, it's great not to drink. Like, there's so many positives from that, but what the biggest change is, I've dealt with all the shit underneath that was causing the wanting to drink, and then alcohol was just adding to the inferno, inflaming, making things worse. So it was like, I was like, okay, well, that's not who I want to be. I tried this on my own, and I can do this myself. I can quit anytime. It hasn't been a problem. And I just went, nope, I'm done. I can't do this.
Good for you. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, man. When you peel back the layers of the onion, you realize that there's a lot of brokenness under the addiction. I mean, it's not, drinking really isn't the problem as much as the shit that leads to the drinking and and what you use drinking for and all that other stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and let's be honest, we're roughly in, the same age. And
no, I think I'm older than you.
You are, but not significant.
I feel older than you.
You look older.
I know.
No, but the guy, we didn't ever get taught how to deal with emotions, how to deal with feelings, right? It was suck it up.
Yeah.
Don't cry, right? Like, so then here we are, and you've got adult problems when you've got kids and you've got things going on, and you don't have any way of handle, like, how do you deal with it? I don't know.
Right.
I'm just going to avoid it.
Yeah. No. And that's the thing too. Like, I think another thing is, you know, when you're stuck in the shit of addiction or,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, any kind of just bad shit, I think a lot of times, you know, your mind will play tricks on you and tell you things like, you know, I'm not good enough, or I've already fucked up too much. There's no way I can get out of this, or, you know, I ruined my life, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that negative self-talk just, I think, feeds the beast.
Oh yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, you know, I told you I've been sober for 23 years. So I got sober at 30, in and out of jail, all that stuff. It wasn't too late.
No.
Right? I haven't even been, because if you look at, I mean, I live in a flipping beautiful house. I got a beautiful wife. I got 4 dogs. I got 5 kids, 8 grandkids. I got a beautiful business with wonderful people. No, it's never too late. You can be 80 years old and choose, you know, from this point forward, man, I'm going to grow. I'm going to be a better person. Tell me one of your challenges. Can you think of a challenge, your biggest challenge in this early stage of your sobriety? Like, is there something that's just like, man, some tough shit I had to work through? Is something that sticks out?
You know, so when Katie kind of told me like, hey, you know, I guess, yeah, kind of an ultimatum, right? I really started working with my therapist on some of that stuff, and I was open with her and honest and told her what was going on. And so I worked through a lot of that prior to going into this program. And, you know, the hardest part for me was being alone with myself, not being lonely, but being alone with myself, right? Because when you're using, you're not there. And so there was a lot of the other thing was like learning how to meditate, and that really helped me.
Yeah.
But you know, there was a lot of time I would go and meditate over lunch and just end up crying because I was working through stuff that was really painful and really hard, and just kind of like processing things that I hadn't dealt with.
Yeah.
And so learning to let's say, you know, learning to embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
You know, life isn't always great. Things happen, but you gotta be comfortable with yourself and who you are.
Yeah, I think you didn't have any withdrawals because you didn't drink that much, right? I mean, it was your drinking was just out of control in a different kind of way, right?
Yeah, I was drinking 6 to 8 drinks in a 2-hour window.
Okay.
So, a good amount.
And on a regular basis?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So did you have some withdrawals then?
The only that I really had was I was kind of sweaty for a couple of nights.
Okay. Yeah, I would wake up in the middle of the night, not even realizing it. I wake up in the middle of the night and eat an entire box of Twinkies. Yeah, because the blood sugar was so fucked up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, you know, Marlos would get up in the morning like, oh, withdrawals. Like, yeah. So that happened for a while. And then, you know, I was always looking for advice. You know, I mean, you get to that point when you realize that you are actually the problem. Like and I think maybe different people have a different rock bottom, but that was my rock bottom when I ran out of people to blame.
Yep.
I had no other excuses. And then I'm at this like desperation mode. I'm like, well, fuck, how do I do this? You know, I've been drinking for so long. And so I asked, you know, I'd ask around, and I got a really good piece of advice that I've shared lots of times. It was this old timer said, you know, you only got to change one thing. Yeah. I was like, and as an addict, I'm like, you know, addicts like one thing. We like easy buttons. And they're like, well, I'm like, what is it? What is it? He's like, everything. I'm like, fuck you. Everything? Like, you totally reeled me in on that. What do you mean everything? He's like, everything, your habits, the things you do for fun, your friends. I'm like, whoa. Friends? He goes, yeah, you need to get rid of your friends. I'm like, no, I'm not getting rid of my friends. And so, so I called one of my friends later. I don't know if it was the next day or something. And his name was Doug. And I'm like, Doug, I'm done, man. Can't do this shit anymore. I'm hanging it up. I'm not drinking anymore. And he said, give it 30 days. We'll see. You'll get back out there with us. And that's when the old man's wisdom, hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, yep, I need new friends.
I want to go back to the toughest thing. Cause I was, you kind of caught me a little bit off guard with that one. And so now I've had time to think about it.
Yeah.
I think the toughest thing is realizing the lost trust of loved ones, and then having them go, the kids get triggered and go, oh my gosh, she's drinking again. And when that happened, I really spiraled in that, well, why the fuck am I doing all this work, trying so hard, putting myself through this if they don't believe me? And then I stopped and was like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, of course they don't fucking believe me. I lied for the last 2 years. Why would they believe me? Like, it's been whatever amount of time it's been, I think maybe like 6 weeks, whatever it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, of course they're not going to believe me. It's going to take time to earn back that trust. So, duh. Like,
well, that's one of the things I've learned with relapsing too. I don't pray. I pray that nobody ever has to go through it. Again, it's not the end of the world if you do. Usually you don't see it coming. It just happens. I didn't plan it.
So,
but all that trust that I had built up by being sober for that long, that track record, throw it all in the garbage.
You gotta rebuild it again.
One night. And it doesn't seem like that. It may not seem fair, but one night gone. You have to build it all again.
Yeah. We actually talked about this last night. So perfect timing. Look at me being all like pretending like I know something. No,
you do know something, dude.
We were talking about like relapsing and what does that mean? And one of the things that the counselor was saying was that the relapse starts before you have that first drink. So you're walking down your path and you veer. Well, okay, so you're starting to, maybe it's the behaviors are changing. You have a chance to fix it, catch it, right? So, in my case, it's, feeling like I'm getting complacent. Like if I'm doing great, things are going well, that's when I need to go, whoa, slow down, pause, like re-examine, because that's where I get myself into trouble or had gotten myself into trouble over the past, trying to do it myself is like, hey, I'm doing great. I haven't had a drink in 6 weeks. I've got this. There's no problem. And then like, whoop, nope.
Well, that's another thing about addiction. I mean, you can't control it. You cannot control it. So if you think that you can, I mean, story after story after story, friend after friend after friend. I was just talking with a work friend who has a husband who had been sober for a while, and he thought that he could have drinks again. He thought that he could, he's older now and he's got more wisdom and he's more controlled and whatever lies you tell yourself. And sure, it went well for a little while and then right back to the same bullshit again.
The thing that really hit home for me is because to me, if I go, I'm powerless over this, well, why fucking try?
Right.
So what works for me is I can control whether I have that first drink or not.
Mm-hmm.
I can't control if I have that first drink, I can't control what happens after that, but I can control if I have one or not. And so that's where that 24 hours at a time, like just focus on today. Yep. It doesn't seem as big. It's not as scary. It's manageable. And that's what's important, is not feeling not feeling powerless to me. Like, I can't control that I've got this, but I don't have to let it control me.
No, exactly, man. Yeah. And it's that positivity. It's that positive self-talk that, goes a long ways. The older you get, the longer you are in sobriety too, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
I remember back, the first 90 days, the first 6 months, it was hard for me because I had to learn all these new habits. I mean, it was crazy.
I feel incredibly blessed and lucky in that I remember, like, I didn't drink for a really long time. Like when my daughters were young, my wife was working nights or weekends. So, I couldn't take care of infants if I was like, it just wasn't something that I did. So I have that reference point of what it's like without the alcohol to go and motivate me to be like, oh, right. I remember, like, you talk to like some of these people that's all they've ever known. I can't imagine how much harder that would be. I know how hard it is for me, and I have a positive reference point of saying like, oh, right, it can be good. Like I can do this. I remember all the hobbies that I used to do that I quit doing because I started drinking. Oh, I enjoy doing these things again. Gosh, how weird.
Yeah. No, it does. It's a totally different way of life, and it's better in every sense. I can't think of anything that was better in my life when I was drinking versus now.
No.
It's everything's better.
And that's the thing, like, and I knew it was a problem. Like, I wasn't fooling myself. I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm drinking too much. Right. Fuck it. I had the one, and then it was over. And going back to the withdrawals, I think probably part of it too is I did realize kind of last October-ish time frame. I was like, okay, I do need to cut back. So I was down to, maybe 2 or 3 drinks, 5 or 6 days a week, which is still not healthy, but it was tremendously less than what I had been drinking. So I did kind of slowly taper myself down. And then, so I think I got, a little bit lucky in that.
Yeah. See, mine just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. There was no controlling it until, just everything came to a head. It was like running into a brick wall.
Well, that was how I justified not having a problem is I didn't drink after 9:30, period. I didn't drink before, a certain time.
How did you have self-control to do that?
And that was my justification that it wasn't a problem. So I'm going to live with those are my rules. That's my rationalization that I don't have a problem. I don't drink after.
If I would have tried that, I would have been like, I would have just justified that next one somehow. I would have been like, I'm not going to go to the liquor store after 9:30, or I just make up something.
That was my rule. That's cool. And I think part of it maybe is just, maybe a little compartmentalizing it into like, okay, this is my time.
Yeah.
But I think when I started going, okay, well, I'm not going to drink between this and the time I started drinking started to inch up earlier.
Okay.
To about, 6. And then the kids were awake and that's kind of when I was like, oh, okay, this is a problem. I shouldn't be doing this. And I was sneaking and hiding it, of course. Right.
So but you're amazing to me because you had the self-awareness. Cause I don't think I didn't have any of that honest talk with myself. I just was like,
oh, I knew I was fucking up. There's no,
I did too, but I never confronted it. I mean, I completely ran from it.
And
I was always the antagonizer too. I mean, people loved me at the parties and at the bars because, I was the guy that was riling people up, and I was the guy that, I think people, when I got sober after a little while, I think I realized that I think the real reason why they invited me to the party was because it made them feel better about themselves. I think I was so much more drunk than everybody else that you could say, well, at least I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I think it made people feel better that I was there.
Yeah, no, and that's, you know, a very common, and this goes back to that abnormal reaction.
Mhm.
Like, I can think of, you know, 5 or 6 people that have that I've, excuse me, gotten to know that said, you know, I'm the one who was on their third drink when everyone was still finishing up their first, and I still wasn't as drunk as them, or whatever it was, right? And that's it. If you think you have an abnormal reaction to it, that's when you should probably look at it.
Have you had people ask you if because I get asked it, and maybe it's just, you know, over the years as more people learn that you know you're sober, I get asked, like I said, hundreds of times if I think they have a drinking problem. And it's the same answer every time I ask. It doesn't matter what I think.
Yep. So I haven't really gone super public with what I've been going through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a big splash way. Go big or go home. Right?
I'm so proud of you, man. Because when you get that shit out in the light, then.
Well, again, and I would say
that's one of the biggest tools. Actually, one of the biggest tools is being open and honest and just sharing that shit.
And being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a hard thing to do. And
it's not a weakness, man. It's such a huge strength.
Well, and that's one of the things. You can't heal until you're vulnerable. You're not gonna recover. You're not gonna be successful if you're not open and vulnerable. With yourself, you have to be brutally honest with yourself.
Right.
And it's gonna suck. Let's be honest. It sucks.
It gets better though, because then you start to realize that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we were talking about dealing with guilt and shame and some of those feelings, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to suck. It's horrible, but I feel like such a better person. I'm such a better person today than I was a year ago.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel
a lot of people get caught up in this. Like, I had a pastor who told me once, and I know that you don't have to be religious to get the meaning behind it. But he simplified guilt and conviction to me. He said guilt comes from Satan, conviction comes from Jesus. And then he went on to explain it, because guilt tears you down. Guilt is the negative self-talk. Guilt is the thing that reminds you of all your mistakes that you made and that you're not good enough to be better and all this other bullshit. That's guilt. Bad. Right. Conviction is, I fucked up. Own it, but I'm going to be better. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to grow. I'm going to be stronger. And so, you know, that helps me. That's a tool that always helps me, because when I do feel guilty about something, I'm just like, fuck you, Satan.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm going to let my dogs out, because they are actually going to break the back door.
How long is this going to take, man? Because then I'm going to be sitting here awkwardly.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. All right. So good to talk to you guys. Don't drink. Well, drink if you're not an alcoholic. If you are an alcoholic, don't drink. It's pretty simple. Okay, Brad's back. Thank God. That was super awkward.
You know, 2 85-pound dogs like jumping at the sliding glass door. I was like, okay, this is going to be a problem here. I don't need a broken door when it's going to be 5 below tonight.
Well, it's such a the guilt and conviction. Mm-hmm. If you can recognize that in your journey, whether you use the Satan Jesus thing or you use whatever, right? Being able to recognize the difference between guilt and conviction is huge, because as soon as I start feeling the guilt thing, I'm like, fuck off. I own it. I made a mistake, admit, make amends, do whatever I need to do. And then I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to march forward. I'm not even thinking about that shit anymore. It's over.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like when some people say once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. In some respects, that's true. But mostly it's like, no, man, I'm not tied to that shit anymore. I learned so much. I'm not that same person anymore.
No, absolutely not. Yeah,
It doesn't mean I can drink. It just means that I'm not that guy.
right. Well, and it kind of goes back to like, the sobriety and a relapse. It doesn't mean you start over. You didn't lose all the tools and knowledge that you
Right.
had gained over the whatever 30 days, 90 days, 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just made a mistake. It happens.
Well, the thing that's way different from those times too is it's like immediately I'm thinking about the people that I hurt, the people that I let down, as opposed to, when I was just getting sober, or when I was, actively drinking, I didn't think about other people.
No.
I didn't give a shit what, I mean, it was the most selfish people in the world are addicts.
Oh yeah. It is a very selfish
Super
disease, and again, it's isolating, and then you get the shame and the guilt, and then isolation, and it just builds on itself.
Totally. So let's talk about some parallels between sobriety and cybersecurity. Let's get creative.
Okay.
So how addiction and technology, because I think a lot of people are addicted to technology.
Well, it's looking for the easy button for sure.
Yeah.
Right. The blinky light that's going to fix everything without doing the hard work behind it that actually matters.
Right. And this ignorance, right? This just like, it's almost like you march to your own demise. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like, well, I'm in the herd, but the whole herd is running for the cliff. And I could see myself like that when I was hanging out with my friends and being an alcoholic. I was that same kind of person. Like, yeah, I was destroying myself because I didn't take the proper precautions. I didn't do the hard work. Whereas now, being sober, I mean, I see that as kind of a parallel with information security, because I think there's just this ignorance. And if you're a practicing, alcoholic, addict, there's a lot of ignorance that goes with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how about the accountability? I think some of the biggest problems in our industry are because of lack of accountability. Nobody's actually accountable for this shit.
So when you say that with cybersecurity, I think the executive level, right? They don't want to have accountability for that. They push it off on, well, that's IT's problem.
Right.
Or that is security's problem, right? Like that's kind of where I see that parallel being,
Yeah, because, with like, take alcohol, the common theme that got both of us, that led us to make the decision to be sober, was the pain. It hurt too much.
Yeah. Yeah. There were consequences that it was too much. Yeah. it was too much for me to handle.
Yeah. And when you look at information security and you see people doing the things they do, not changing default passwords, single factor authentication, blah, blah. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and you read about the breaches, on, and nothing really changes. 30 years in this industry, and you look and you're like, man, this seems like we haven't made a hell of a lot of progress, because we're still talking about a lot of the same shit we were talking about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think a big reason for that is nobody's felt the pain. There's not enough pain.
Yeah.
If like back in the day,
I got cyber insurance to pay for it.
Right.
Excuse.
Exactly. I mean, you get so many breach notifications nowadays, and you read about so many breaches. It's like, yeah, big deal. I mean, I'm still fine. Or, let's say somebody hacks your bank account and steals your money. You get your money back.
Right.
I mean, so there's no pain. I mean, and the pain that we do have, we all share. Like I pay for other people's shitty information security habits.
Right.
Because the bank's not going to lose money. They're just going to raise fees and spread it across
the others,
all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Gosh, yeah.
Something to think about.
There
Something to think
really
about
is
anyway.
like a lot of the, again, I'm gonna go back to my worksheet here because
Hell yeah.
it's really good to fit like defenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Avoiding it. Yep. Okay, we see avoidance in cybersecurity, InfoSec.
Yep.
Blaming. Yes.
Right.
Denial. Absolutely. Kind of invincible. It hasn't happened to me yet, so it won't happen.
I'm telling you, man. I think there's a lot of parallels between the information security
Procrastination,
bullshit and
minimizing,
addiction.
rationalization. Yeah, there is absolutely a lot there that makes sense.
It's crazy because like I wouldn't have known this stuff. I wouldn't have thought about this stuff had I not been there. Had I not gone through some of the things I go through. I mean, I was thinking about, I'm actually going to write a blog post about this. Like, over my life, you accumulate these scars. I call them scars, right? Whether it, the shit that happened in my childhood, addiction, divorce, cancer. I mean, there's just a long list of shit, and every one of those things I think is like a scar, and people see your scars. Mm-hmm. And when people see your scars, people ask about it, breaks the stigma down. Right. So when you talk about, alcoholism, talk about addiction, you talk about cancer, you talk about mental health issues, you talk about these things, you're basically showing people your scars. Yeah. And then they can be like, oh, I have that scar too. And then they can talk to you about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to happen. I hope for you too.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that I've gotten out of going and doing this is you go, well, I'm the only one who's gone through this, or I'm the only one who's dealing with. You're not. I can guarantee you, I am, still fresh in this. And I can tell you very much, those were things that I actively said up until I was like, okay. And actually went. And I'll tell you, it was scary to go.
Oh,
right?
For
you
sure,
don't know
man.
what you're walking into.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's like, okay, well, and I very much remember thinking, oh my God, I've got the podcast, I've done the mentor, like, holy shit, what if somebody recognizes me? Very much that's the addict brain going, excuses, don't do this.
Yeah, what if somebody finds out that I'm an alcoholic?
Right. And in one of the first meetings, our first couple of weeks, somebody had said, it was like, I finally went to my first, AA meeting, and the reason he finally was able to go is he was talking to somebody who had been going for a long time, and he said the same thing, like, well, what if somebody recognizes me? And the person that had been going for a long time goes, you'll be surprised at the people you recognize. And
that's like, true too. Oh. Yeah.
And it kind of goes, it kind of hits home. And that's what's so great is those are safe spaces. It's not like I'm going to come out here and be like, so-and-so told me that. No. Right. Can I relate to it? Can I say, somebody said that they had been, drinking for 40 years. Okay. I'm not going to give anything away, but it helps me. Right. And so, you're not the only one dealing with a situation that you think you are the only one dealing with. And
if you're transparent about it and you own it and you share it freely, it can no longer be used against you. Mm-hmm. I mean, what are you going to use my alcoholism against me?
How?
I mean, I've already shared it. I've already told it to you. And if you're going to fire me from a job for it, that's not a place I want to work anyway.
Right.
If you're not going to support me in making healthy choices and not admit that people make mistakes and not show grace and not show love in this company, I don't want to fucking work here.
Right.
Thank you for firing me because it saved me the work, saved me the hassle.
Right. Well, and look at some of the, and you go, I'm like, what if somebody who am I? Right. Like, I'm just a guy. But you look at like like the Dax Shepard or the oh my god, Russell Brand. Like these are big people that are globally recognized that are open about it. I'm like, oh yeah, if they can do it,
right?
Why can't
Well,
I?
And then you set the example for other people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you break down. It's really easy to break down the stigma. All you gotta do is talk about it.
Right.
That removes the stigma. Whether talk about mental health issues, depression, suicide, ADHD, whether you talk about alcoholism, addiction, whatever.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be such stigmas because you shouldn't rush to judge people like that. Now, there are times when, I mean, you would have to have consequences for somebody who continued to drink, wasn't showing up to work on time, wasn't getting things done, because they weren't confronting their alcoholism and everything. That's different. But when somebody's on this path and they make the choice to get healthy, holy shit, pour into those people.
Oh yeah.
Those are the best people for your culture, your business, the best people to have it for friends. Shit. And that's why I think I have so many addicts as friends.
Yeah.
I want those people in my life. I want broken people because there's only two ways you learn wisdom that I know of. One is you can learn wisdom from somebody else. Just listen to them. The other way is to get it through experience, but not just any experience. It's got to be experience with pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you want
a consequence,
I want people around me that have the experience with pain because, man, they got so much fucking wisdom. The best people by far, man. So stigma, fuck the stigma. Let's talk about it. Open up, be yourself, be comfortable. Let people that do love you pour into you, support you, pray for you, whatever.
Right.
It's just,
well, and,
my son, go ahead, man.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like you said, I'm such a different person in a good way than I was before I did this. Like,
for sure,
what I'm able to bring is significantly better than it was before. And I'm talking before I started drinking.
Yeah. You didn't know me when I was drinking. Nope. You wouldn't want to be anywhere near me. But that's the thing too. I mean, drinking, alcoholism, addiction, all of it. And there's lots of addictions too, by the way. There's sex addictions,
gambling,
there's pornography addictions, gambling addictions. And when people do ask me, do you think I have a problem? First, I always say, it doesn't matter what I think, but if you want my opinion, I'll give it to you. And it's the same thing I teach because we overcomplicate everything. Drama does that. But it's, if you really want to simplify, bad choices have consequences. Good choices have benefits. So if you look at your drinking, are there more consequences than benefits? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple.
Right. And like what you said, like your consequences are going to look different from others. Like mine look different than yours. Yours look different than.
Oh God, addicts love to compare themselves too, don't they?
Oh yeah. And it is so easy to say it's like you said, it's a disease of yets. This hasn't happened yet. You don't do something about it, it's going to happen.
Yeah. So sharing that stuff, I think is super important because that somebody, like I remember the one time I shared, the first time I shared that I was molested as a child, and that's one of those things like, oh my God, don't ever share that. Why the fuck wouldn't I share that? I mean, the part of sharing it too is the more times you verbalize it, the more times you confront it, the more times you put it out there, the less power it has on you.
Yeah, I was gonna say the more power you take over it.
Yep, you just talk about it all the time, and it makes it then it's a big deal. But I remember the first time I did that, it was at like a men's group, and I had over five, maybe six men come up to me after I'd given that talk that all shared with me that they had been molested as children and they never had shared it with anybody. Yeah. The stigma was so fucking strong.
Yep.
And so what are they doing with it? Well, you just keep it all bottled up inside and it continues to have power over you.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yep.
Why would I let, and this was, an uncle. Why would I let him have power over my life?
Right.
No, not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and you were there when Robbie committed suicide, right?
Yep.
That was, and I've had like 5 friends, I think, over my career who have committed suicide. And every time that happens, and it's because the same thing with like addiction too. Every time that happens, I always question, I don't know if you do this too, but I question like, what could I have done?
Yeah. And
could I have called him? Could I have, but it's kind of a normal part of processing.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And so I came to the conclusion that the one thing I can, the one thing I can always do is I can talk about it. Mm-hmm. I can make a safe place for people to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm here. I'm not going to try and solve anything for you.
Right.
I'm here to, like I said, I'm here to get it out of your head.
And I'm here to love you regardless, man. I'm here to love you regardless.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't love Brad because of his super elite information security skills. I love Brad because he's Brad. And I actually, to be honest with you, I love Brad more now than I did before because it's the real Brad. It's not a fake version of Brad. And that's the kind of, when you get to that raw shit, where you just can talk about these things, not be judged. My son works as a police officer, or he did work as a police officer in Lenexa, Kansas. And, during the COVID shit, they had the George Floyd and, all that stuff and defund the police. And so, and I know my son, he's a beautiful human. I mean, he's got such a big heart. I mean, he's the kind of cop that I'd want to have. So I rode, he just bought a new bike, this during COVID. And so I rode my Harley down. I was like, let's go for a ride together, man. I'll ride from Minnesota down and I'll stay for a couple of days. But what I really went down there for was I wanted to check in, like, how is your mental health?
Right.
Because his wife works as like a emergency room nurse or something.
Okay.
So it's like, those are 2 really high stress places to work, man.
Yeah. Especially during that time.
Oh man. So I was like, tell me, how you doing? He's like, well, it's tough. And I'm like, so do they have any resources for you? He goes, yeah, but nobody uses them. I'm like, why doesn't anybody use them?
Can't be weak.
He's like, it'll go on your record. Mm-hmm. I'm like, the fuck? So they're going to hold that against you if you go get mental health.
Right. Like, hey, I'm doing something to make me a better person. Shame on you. Like,
they should give you a fucking medal for that.
Right.
But that's part of the stigma too. I mean, it's just this twisted, like there's something wrong with you if you've got a weakness. And I've never met a man anywhere ever who didn't have a weakness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's perfect.
And I think the ones that get it right, the ones that I think are growing in their life is they recognize their strengths and they minimize their weaknesses. So the process that you're going through where you're doing this self-examination and getting real with yourself and honest with yourself, a lot of that is like, who am I? What am I good at? What am I built for? And what things am I not? And if you capitalize on your strengths and minimize your weaknesses, that I mean, that's when you're living your best life. Like my weaknesses are I suck at time management. I suck at all management, maybe even.
Right.
ADHD. I'm not good with money. So I understand that those are my weaknesses. And instead of trying to work on my weaknesses, don't try to work on your weaknesses. Work on your strengths. Minimize your weaknesses. Those are some of the wisdomy things that I learned in going through my own, addiction shit.
Yeah. I still, anybody that really knows me will laugh at this, but I remember it was in first or second grade. My mom took me in to get, she was trying to get me into the gifted and talented program. And so took in for the testing for, the IQ and all the different stuff. And the way she tells it is, the psychiatrist or whatever the title was came out after the test. It was like, why didn't you tell me he was learning disabled? You have to tell me that. It changes the test. And she's like, what are you talking about? And turns out I scored for organizational skills at that level. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know this until I was in my 30s, right? Like, she didn't, it wasn't like she told me this right away, but I always struggled with that. So if you look at like how I took notes in school or how I do, there is a very structured way, because if I don't do it in an exact way, because that's my weakness, it's chaos.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So like, anyway, even whether I'm writing it down or I'm typing it out, there is a very specific way that I take notes for things, because that's how I have to do it for it to work for me.
Yeah, they thought I was dyslexic when I was younger, because I can read backwards and I switch letters around just for fun. So yeah, I do that with my wife too. Like when she says she wants to have a discussion, I'm like, you want to have a dick suction? Do shit like that all the time. And yeah, I don't know if it's probably some kind of learning disability. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I know it drives my wife and the kids absolutely insane, because I'll be doing something and they're like, are you listening to me? Did you even hear? And I'll recite it back like verbatim. And they're like,
oh yeah, that's awesome.
That's so funny.
So what kind of things can we do more of in our industry? Or do you feel like we're doing it right? When it comes to talking about mental health, when it comes to talking about high pressure environments, burnout, alcoholism. No. Okay.
We're not, I don't think we're doing it right. Like there is, it is a very much a culture thing in IT and security. Like it's very high pressure. Right. You have to be on. If it's a very thankless job. You're either everything's working fine, so people are going, well, what the hell are you doing? Or it's broken and they're going, why the hell haven't you, like, why isn't it fixed yet? Right? Like there is no happy medium of any sort of thing. So yeah, I've seen it, and there's obviously the culture. I'm sure this goes across other industries too, but I mean, the amount of drinking at conferences is just insane.
Yeah. When I was an outcast at a lot of conferences that I'd go to, because the people I was there with were all drinkers, and I'm not. So I would, just go back to the hotel. Right. And everybody was respectful about that. It was, I never felt pressured, nobody ever like, come on. There was one guy, he was a Ukrainian, but he was a customer. He was weird, but yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, there's always more work to do. I think we need to just continue to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it too much though. Do you ever feel like if you talk about it too much, then like you're obsessing about it, or that you're almost kind of being a hypocrite?
I think it's just you don't want to get preachy, right?
Yeah, right.
So I think it's important to be open, but
be authentic.
Natural. Yeah, authentic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, it's truly the only reason why I would share this stuff isn't because I don't want any damn pity. Fuck the pity. I don't want any pity. period. Never want pity. I want to help people. The whole reason why I'm in this industry to begin with is I hate seeing people get taken advantage of.
Right.
I hate it. And so I feel like that's our job, is to serve people, is to steer them in the right direction. It's to protect them. And the same thing goes with, like, when you talk about addiction or mental health or this other stuff. I think when you're transparent with people, you're hoping that it's going to help somebody.
Yeah.
That somebody's going to watch this, or somebody's going to hear your talk somewhere and be like, oh my God, that hits. I'm just like that. And then they turn their life around. They get help. They do whatever.
Yeah. I think, gosh, I volunteered to help you with a mentor program day, like,
that was fun.
6 months after
that was awesome.
it started, right? Like,
yeah.
And it was my whole thing with that and the podcast and speaking and is the mentoring is giving back and helping in a way that I wish I had maybe some of that coming up, right? Where I didn't have some of those mentors professionally to give advice and help out. So yeah, if I can help you from, like you said, my scars can teach you something, why wouldn't I share that? Why would I keep that to myself?
Well, that's the thing too, because one of the things you said before we, when we were talking about this podcast or this episode, was like, well, I got 90 days in. I only have 90 days, and I get where you're coming from on that. But one of the things I think that's really important in life too, and really important in sobriety and all this shit, is respect. Respecting somebody else's perspective, right? Every perspective is valid, right? Because a person's perspective is their reality.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and when you share your perspective on where you're at, where you came from, your current part of the journey in, 90 days, you don't realize how helpful that is, even to somebody who's been sober for 23 years, because it reminds me of things like, oh shit, I remember that. Because we easily forget things. I mean, we get older and stuff. It evokes emotions, that, oh yeah, fuck, that hurt. I remember that. So it's super valuable, man. Whether you're 90 days, 9 days, or haven't even made the decision to get sober, your perspective still matters.
Well, and thank you. Yeah, it was definitely something where we talked about it. And then I was like, yeah, sure. And then I completely freaked out. I was like, holy shit, imposter. It was totally the imposter syndrome that we've talked about within the industry. And it wasn't until I talked to the group about it before I even told you that. I was like, well, all right, let me talk to him first, because I don't know should I even do this? And they were like, no, that would have been super helpful for somebody getting started to know, hey, you can make it a couple of months. You can do this. It's hard, but it's not scary, or I guess it is scary, but at first, but
it's a good scary though.
But yeah, there is hope, and that hope is, the most powerful thing you can have. So
yeah, that's why I like the conviction thing too, not the guilt thing. Anything that steals your hope, real hope, there's that false hope too. I mean, we can convince ourselves that we're people that we're not.
Right.
So, being honest with yourself, you'll find that there's a lot more hope there. You don't have to keep up some damn facade.
Right. Well, you don't have to, I remember one of the people was saying he would write down his lies because he couldn't keep track of them anymore.
Yeah. That's probably, you're probably in a bad spot then.
Right. And it's like, my life is so much better because I was spending so much time, maintaining the lies, that it was so much energy. Like, and it's true. Like you just, it's very freeing to go through this and figure yourself out. And, the one thing I will say is, yes, a lot of times it is, a significant other that's kind of the reason people get there, but you're not going to be successful if you're doing it for someone
for
else.
somebody else. No.
Yeah, it's got to be it's got to be you, and that's what had happened with me is I was trying to do it, for the wife and kids,
Right.
and still going. I don't have a problem, but I'll stop drinking because they want me to.
Right. Yeah. It's
And
so deeply personal. You have to own it.
Yep. And I remember a lot of times it was like going and saying like, it's funny how you say this or how we do this, and it's like, crap. It's funny how I do this. I was saying we because I don't have to take accountability if I lump everyone in at once,
Right.
But those realizations and stopping myself mid sentence in the middle of talking with 15 other people,
Mm-hmm.
you go, damn it.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful to have that realization and go, oh, that's why I was doing that. Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's so, yeah, it's that. And that's where the accountability, I love people in my life who, it took a while to get here, but I love people in my life who lovingly correct me. I mean, without them, because I think I'll always be my own worst enemy. It's just how I'm built. But I have people around me who aren't yes men. I think my friends back in the day when I was still drinking, they were yes men. Yeah, let's go and party. I mean, that's not love. Love is wanting what's best for somebody else, and that wasn't what was best for me. And I don't blame them. It's not their fault. I was there. I made the decisions. It was me who did it. But I'm so grateful, for my wife, the executive leadership team that we have at FR Secure, you, Kevin, Matt, who's on here. I mean, lots of really good friends that if I started to slip, they would, they'd help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Evan, you're making some shitty choices there.
Yeah. And that goes back to that. So the people you can trust, and, building those good relationships, it's just going to make you stronger. And it just makes everything better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, let's hope that, obviously we're talking about, alcoholism and sobriety and all that stuff. It applies to everybody. But in our industry, we know that there are other people that are suffering. Yeah. There are other people that are, in this spot who are drinking alone. And again, it doesn't matter if I think you have a problem or not, you know it. And if you don't know it, it's probably something you want to get the answer to, and hopefully we've laid a little bit of foundation here where you can feel comfortable. You're not alone. There are people that still love you. There are people that can separate alcoholism from the person that's inside. And I think there's a lot of people that would love to see you get healthy.
Yeah.
Provide some support for you.
One thing that is important to remember too, and this kind of came up when I was talking about, triggering your loved ones. What I've learned is that the family is typically 3 to 5 months behind the person in recovery. So where I'm at today,
good point.
They're 3 to 5 months behind because they weren't ready to heal yet. They weren't ready to do some of that stuff because why do that, or see the change type of thing. So it is important for anybody that's going to go through this to hey, it's going to take time. One thing that I did is the marble jar, right? And the story is the teacher would put marbles in the jar when the kids were good, take marbles out when they were bad, and when you get to a certain level, it party time, right? Well, I the trust jar, it's marbles are equate to the trust, and I'm starting with an empty jar, and
there you go.
It's a good reminder for me how far I've got to go still.
Yeah.
Because I look at the jar and it's just like fuck, how is that not fuller? It feels like it's been way longer than where it's at.
Well, and doesn't the journey, I think the journey never ends.
No.
And that's the thing. You're always growing. I mean, the thing when I was a practicing, alcoholic is I wasn't growing.
Mm-mm.
I was a hardcore drinker, probably from the age of 15 to the age of 30, like really hardcore. And I think my body aged physically, but I think my mental age, it was still I was still a 15-year-old.
Oh yeah. I got you.
And so like, yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about, I think, recovery, because recovery itself, that word has a stigma. When you use the word recovery, it's like, what it is it's just a journey. It's a journey of like self-discovery of, and I do it now with a clear mind.
Yeah.
I think better than I've ever thought before.
I was like, it's kind of strange. I actually remember the end of games now. Watching whatever,
Yeah.
Huh, weird.
Yeah.
I remember what that's like.
Yeah, because those habits you're learning in your treatment stuff, those are life skills, man. Those are things that if you continue to practice that, it extends way beyond sobriety.
I mean, I've told one thing, my daughter was freaking out about something that was coming up. I was like, 10-80-10. And she's like, what the heck does 10-80-10 mean? 10% of your effort and time in the past, 10% in the future, 80% in the present. If you find that balance out of whack, you need to slow down and recenter yourself.
Yeah, that's a good skill. That's a good piece of advice.
And that is a life skill. That's not yes, that is very important in recovery, but it's just a good life skill to keep in mind. Like, why am I spending all of this? I mean, it's spending 80% of my processing power worrying about something that may or may not happen, that I have no control over. Right.
That's it. You can control you. It reminds me of like early on in my marriage to Marlis, I didn't know. Obviously I wasn't a good husband. I thought I was being a good husband, but I don't think I knew what a good husband was, to be honest. So we went to counseling. And I was like, all right, let's figure out what's up. So, and I would have never done that had I been still drinking, by the way.
No.
You just don't have that mentality. So, I go there, and after the first session, she's like, so, what did you get out of it? And I was like, well, one of the things I got out of it is I'm not going to work on our marriage. I got to work on me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't work on our marriage. I don't even know how to work on our marriage, but I can work on me. I can be a better me. I can be the best me I can be. And if you're still here,
yep,
awesome. If you're not, I'm still the best me I can be, and I can't blame you for that. So I think there's a lot of wisdom there when you deal with addiction too. I can't worry about other people.
Right.
I can't. So if my family is 6 months behind me, it's good to know. Part of me being a better me is to be supportive, show grace, love, all that stuff. But I can't own it. I can't own them not accepting it. I can't own them not healing themselves. Because I think that can lead you right back into this.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the use? You're never gonna fucking trust me again. I mean, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of what that is taught is the tools of that, and like little tips and tricks, right? Keep your side of the street clean. You can't keep someone else's side of the street clean, nor should you be expected to, or should you expect to. You can handle what is your side.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't even clean your fucking street anyway. I mean, I can't clean over there anyway.
Right. It's hard enough keeping your side clean. What are you doing trying to keep someone else's clean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. So what piece of advice do you have for anybody who's listening to this? We'll start with a couple of different ones. We'll talk about what advice would you give to somebody who is questioning whether maybe they have a drinking problem?
I would say take the leap. There's plenty of virtual meetings, either AA or Smart Recovery, or there's several other ones. Is the two that I've done, and Smart Recovery really resonated for me. But just go.
So
and listen.
you don't have to be a confirmed alcoholic to go to these things.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But
yeah.
if you think you do, go and just listen. And
right.
And if you find yourself going, yeah, maybe take it that next step.
Right.
Virtual is easy way to get in. It's it's a lot less scary. Because you can pick one that's not near you. You can put in a fake name. You don't have to turn on your camera.
Right.
But go and listen to the stories and see if it resonates with you.
Yeah.
Take the first step. Like if you go and go, oh yeah, no. Then what, you lost an hour of your time?
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I think that's great advice. I do. I think explore it, right? Because that's another thing, because the more you stay in sobriety, man, the more people are going to find out about it, the more people are going to come ask you questions about it.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the other thing is every single person that I had told up till now, and I told probably a dozen or so people, which is, that's a big number when you're just starting.
One person's a tough number when you're starting.
But every single person was incredibly supportive, and almost all of it was like, wow, I'm so proud of you, that that's incredible that you're doing this, and you're and that was not what I expected at all. I didn't know what I expected. It was, you do. There's like we talked about the stigma. You're like, oh my God, they're going to be like, oh, okay, you're one of them. And that's not, that is not the reaction I got from anyone. Now, I did tell people that I knew I could trust, and wasn't just telling, everybody and bragging about it. But I can't guarantee you that that's your, could be your experience. But
yeah, and I think if somebody's questioning, if you're a person who's questioning whether you have a drinking problem or not, think about it. I mean, why would you even be asking the question? Something's leading you here to this point, and explore it. Don't give up on it. If there's that little voice in your head that's questioning whether or not you have a drinking problem or whatever, explore it. Right. That voice isn't going to go away, until you answer it, till you answer the question. And, I like simple things. We overcomplicate everything, it seems. So if you have more consequences, then you have benefits from anything in your life, whether it be alcohol, whether it be shopping, work, whatever, it's unhealthy, right? I mean, you get benefits from things that are healthy. You get consequences from things that aren't healthy.
Right.
So, and if you come to the conclusion that, I think I need help, there's lots of resources to go to. There's lots of people you can reach out to. I mean, you can always reach out to me. That's one of my weaknesses. I suck at responding to things. But hopefully you feel, what I want people to be is empowered. Call it empowerment over fear. Yeah. Fuck fear. Be empowered. Take control of your life, right? Don't let somebody else dictate your life. Don't let alcohol dictate your life. Don't let whatever. You got to get to this point where you're empowered. Yeah. And believe it.
Yeah. And like I said, it's never going to work if you're not doing it for yourself.
No. What about somebody that, what advice do you have for somebody? I'm trying to think, somebody that maybe fell off the wagon.
So, it's, to me, it's the behaviors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you made a mistake, but was it the same as when you were in active use, or did you catch it, use your tools?
Mm-hmm.
Now you still have to have accountability.
Right.
I did this. I own it. Doesn't mean I have to go back to active use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who doesn't make a mistake? Like, that's the hardest thing that I think that I'm harder on myself than anyone else is on me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those daily mantras of or just thinking through, like, you know, we had somebody who did relapse, and I was like, and he was really beating himself up. And I was like, what I tell myself when I make a mistake is, I probably put myself and say, okay, if someone else had done this, what would my reaction be? What would my response
Mm-hmm.
have been? And it's always going to be, hey, don't worry about it. Get back up. You're here. You're working on it. Great job. Keep going. Don't give up. That's not what I
Right.
tell myself.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
have to keep telling myself, like, it's okay. People make mistakes. Do you learn from the mistake, and do you continually repeat the mistake, or do you move on? And so,
Mm-hmm.
learn from it, move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and addicts are convincing little fuckers, and I'm one of them. So, that's why I know the, because I think, the longer I've been an addict, I think the more I understand the mentality, and how they work. Because I've had friends, relapse. I've relapsed. And you can kind of tell when they're playing the game or if they really are sorry. You know what I mean? So it's interesting because, yeah, you fucked up. I mean, I'm not going to minimize that, and
Right.
I'm not going to step in. I'm not going to take any of the consequences away from you. I'm not going to step in. I'm not going to bail you out of jail. I'm not going to do any of that shit. You're here because of your choices, and that's part of the game. And then, like the last one, was my buddy. He has a meth habit. Not anymore. I mean, still does, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And he relapsed. Again, and I'm like his best friend. So the first time he relapsed, I showed him some grace. I like, all right, man. I get it. I mean, just get your shit together. Let's stop fucking around. And then the second time, I told his wife to sell his motorcycles. He had two motorcycles, and they were both over at my house. I said, if you don't sell them, I'll sell them. When you do shit like this, you don't deserve a damn motorcycle. I mean, it was just kind of this tough love.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when he called me, when he came back home, you could tell, he's a big dude, and he was crying, and he had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the thing is, all right, it's done. What are you going to do about it? Rather than dwell in it and continue to be like, oh, what was me? I'm such a shitty person. And what?
You're in the past. You're out of your ratios.
Yeah, you're in that 10. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? What's the path forward? How are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Right.
What was what blindsided you? How did you get there? It's that kind of stuff. And to his credit, he went back into treatment, and he's been into treatment I don't know how many damn times. And that was another thing that's so frustrating. It's like, you have all the tools. I mean, you could write the damn book on treatment.
Yeah.
You've been there so many times. When are you going to own it? When are you going to live it? So yeah, I'm proud of him now. He's been sober for like 5 years now again.
Something my therapist told me that was helpful is that on average, people relapse 7 to 8 times before it sticks. If it sticks.
Well, I'm ahead of schedule. I've only done it twice.
So if it's
winning,
right, and some people it just doesn't stick. But for those that it sticks with, it's hard. It's hard work. You're completely relearning life skills or learning life skills for the first time.
When some people can't handle facing how ugly they actually are. And it's not that you're ugly, it's the shit that you did that was ugly. And you got to be able to separate that. You know, like one of the things I won't tolerate from any of my friends, especially my addict friends, is the negative self-talk. I'll have none of it. You know, like a friend of mine last week or something was like, yeah, I'm just a piece of shit. And I was like, whoa. Shut your fucking, no, you're not a piece of shit. You know, you're not. You're worth more than that. Why would I even be investing any time with you? You know, I mean, you got to get this positive self-talk thing going. You know, stop yourself from telling you that you're not worthy, that you can't get sober, that there's not a bright future ahead of you. You know, the last time, you know, waking up in jail, you know, they took away my driver's license. Like they canceled it. They didn't revoke it. They canceled it for 3 years. There was a lot of shit to pay, right? I mean, I think I paid probably close to $100,000 in like legal fees and everything like that. And I deserved all of that, right? But when you're in the middle of that and you're just getting on this path, man, it looks so damn daunting. The hill looks so fucking high. You're like, oh my God. Yeah. How am I going to get through all this stuff? Yeah. Yeah. And then, but you got to stay committed to it. And then, you do get over those hills, you know, and then pretty soon you start, you know, working on these habits and, life's like normal. I mean, it wasn't normal back then.
Right.
I mean, I should have died multiple times, and I'm glad
you didn't.
I lived through it. Yeah, me too, man. That was some crazy shit. Now, and I'm really super grateful that I didn't seriously injure anybody or kill anybody when I was in that lifestyle, because that would have been, I don't know how I would have gotten over that. I mean, it was hard enough getting over the shit that I had to get through.
Yeah.
But if somebody would have died because of my behavior, that would have been really hard. So thank God for that. But that's the thing, right? One relapse, maybe that happens. I don't know. That's the thing. When I drink, I'm out of control. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Why test it? Why push it? I mean, I'm pretty fucking happy right here, right now. And even when I have those bad days, there's healthy ways to cope with that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, man, I appreciate you so much. And as a friend of yours, a coworker of yours, I can't tell you enough how proud I am of you.
Thank you.
You motivate me. You inspire me. And you inspire the people around you.
Thank
you.
You
Truly do, man. All right. Next episode is next week. I've got this guy, Matt Goodacre, who I think was was chatting over here. We're going to talk about fuck the fear factory.
Nice.
I mean, don't literally fuck the fear factor. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, the broadcasters might get upset if you did that to that show. Isn't that a soul show?
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a Fear Factory show. I forgot about that show. All right, man. Any parting words?
No, just, you know, because it's ingrained in me from the unsecurity is a shout out to everyone in my support network. They know who they are.
Keep up that work.
To my family for putting up with a selfish dick the last few years. And
no negative self-talk. That dude's
I'm not
dead.
Saying that. I'm saying in use. That's what I was.
He was. You ain't no
I'm
more.
not now. You know. So, but no. Shout out to them. They've been super supportive and yeah.
I'm really excited to see what the future's got in store for you, man. It's gonna be a fun road.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. I just ended the stream. That was good, man.